Hello students, welcome to this video. I'm going to show you how to use some Excel functions so we can work on things so we can be ready for our data collection that we're going to be doing for this course. So in the Excel practice in-class activity file, which is on Blackboard, we're going to do a couple things. So go to the first tab, Colors. We're going to use the count if function. We're going to create a nice pie chart. So we have a whole bunch of colors there, basically serving the purpose for us to learn how to use the count if function. So the count if function, setting up as count if bracket, highlight all your data, so all the colors. Oops. We go comma. The first color we have in cell I-10, and we can enter that. We've got 9. Let's make that centered. Now, in order, when we copy this down, the cell references are going to change, so we need to make the cell reference column A to E, or range A to E. We need to make that absolute. We need to have mixed cell reference would be good. The dollar sign in front of the number, and for A10 to E21, I have 2, which is okay as well. And we're going to drag that down. We get all of our frequencies for our colors. We can add a total row, which is an equal sum function, and we have 60 colors. Next thing we want to do is make a pie chart out of this. So highlighting all the colors with their frequency, including the title, go under the Insert tab, pick that pie chart. Let's do this one here. Going to make this a little smaller. This is a pie chart. This pie chart is not set up very nice right now. Let's clear up some room here, because we need to add data labels. So right click on a section of the pie chart, add data labels. We're going to come back and format data labels. And we're going to click on series name, or the category name, and values. We're going to include percentages as well. Scroll down to the bottom of that. We're going to have it go to the outside end. That's going to be where the text is going to be displayed. We've also included leader lines as well. So now this pie chart's a little better. We don't need the legend at the bottom, so we can right-click, delete. The leader line comes in when we move the text away from the section of the pie. We have those connecting lines. Now in data where there's a few small categories, that becomes more important because it allows us to still discern what section corresponds to which label and number. So we want to change that title to be, say, favorite colors. And there we go, not favorite T. Oof, can't spell today. There you go, favorite colors. That's a really nice pie chart. Let's go to the second tab, numbers. Here we have basically responses for maybe on a scale of 1 to 5 for 4 questions. What we want to do is create functions for these 4 different things here. So what we can do is just copy these down, insert it below and to the left, and now we can go equals count bracket, highlight all of our numbers, close the bracket, press enter. So the functions in Excel generally named after themselves. We have the average function equals average. We're going to do all the functions for one question, and at the end, all we have to do then is copy over. And the standard deviation function, stdev, bracket, highlight all of our data. For question 1, press enter. We can reduce the decimal places here by going to the Home tab and shortening them that way. Let's go to average to 1 decimal place and standard deviation to 2. So let's center this to keep it in line with the data. And now we just copy or drag across. We get the averages we get the values for all 4 questions. So the last tab, proportions, what we want to do is make this more visible. We're going to use a COUNTIF function to count how many actual responses there are in each question. So because we designed this, we know what the 4 responses are. So we have to type in here carefully, very satisfied, satisfied, neutral, unsatisfied, and then very unsatisfied. Oops, forgot the D. There it is. Very unsatisfied. So we're going to be scrolling up a bit here, so it's not that cumbersome to do so when we only have 30 pieces of data, but when we start analyzing our survey data, we could have up to 150 to 200 pieces of data. So what I did, I just hid the middle rows. If we hide the middle rows but still keep upper and at least one on the lower end, then all the count or all the functions will still apply to the values that are hidden. So we want to use a COUNTIF function. COUNTIF bracket all the range, which is for question 1, comma, the criteria, which is in cell J34. We want to close that. Now, if we were to copy this down, what you'll notice is, let's just do this. We'll still get numbers, but these numbers aren't going to be accurate because it should be K2 to K31. When we go down to the very bottom, it's changed by 5 values here, or 4 values. It's now K6 to K35. So we don't want that. And if we were to drag this across, it's now giving us 0 because the criteria has changed from J34 to K34. K34 is this number 10. So we don't want that either. So to make this a little easier, what we're going to do is first put a $ in front of the J to make that criteria cell have that mixed cell reference. Press enter. Now we can copy this across. The alternative to doing this little shortcut is oops, we need the $ in front of the J. Good teaching moment there. And dragging that across. The alternative to this shortcut is to enter the COUNTIF functions for each separate question. So let's make that centered. Now let's go back to question 1, cell K34, and make the array absolute. We could have a mixed cell reference here. I'm just going to press F4 on my keyboard. It gives me that mixed one first, toggling through that. It changes, but I'm going to have both $ there. So everything is held absolute. I can drag this down. When I go to the next one, I have to do the same thing. Go to the next one here, making cell range M and now N fixed or absolute. I can copy those ones over, paste them down, and there we go. Let's do a total. See how many responses we have. Equals sum, bracket, highlight all your data. We got 30. Let's do a count. We're counting the text in the responses. So the count text, it's going to be a count A function, bracket, highlight all your data. So we got 30. There's actually 30 responses, and this shows that we have counted for or accounted for all 30 responses. So if we highlight both of those, drag those over, we'll realize that there's 30 total, and for this one, right there, that, and this one indicate that something's missing here. There's 30 text within question 2, but only 29 are being counted. So to see what's happening there, I have to go back and unhide. And this happens when we transcribe or copy survey data into our spreadsheet. We are doing our survey this year online, so this should not be a problem. But sometimes we have to go in there and clean up some of the data. You'll notice that in cell L18, neutral is spelled wrong. So let's just type that the right way. And we get 30 responses out of knowing that there's 30 pieces of data. So the next thing I want to show you is how to make a nice little graph. I want to hide this data. How to make a graph showing and comparing all 4 questions at the same time with one graph. So I'm copying down the question titles down here. I'm going to be highlighting the data plus the responses in the Insert tab. I'm going to make a horizontal or bar graph, which is horizontal, and it's going to be a stacked, 100% stacked. And it's going to look like that. It's close to what we want, but not exactly. Excel's kind of smart, but sometimes it just doesn't know exactly what we want here. We want the data, the rows and columns to be switched. So if we right-click on the graph, select data, switch row and column, click OK. Now, these are the responses for each of the 4 questions. So very satisfied in dark blue goes up to, for question 1, just up to perhaps about 32%. Satisfied takes us up to 60%. This graph looks really good. Add a chart title. But to make this graph even much better, a couple students in a couple teams, or a team a couple years ago did this. What they did was they changed the very satisfied color section to green. So you can do that by going into the Home tab, clicking on, say, a nice bright green, dark green there, changing the satisfied to perhaps a lighter green. Where's the lighter green? Oops. This section. Changing that to perhaps a lighter green, not that light. Ooh. Okay, choosing that one. Changing neutral to perhaps an orange, and changing the unsatisfied choices. I'm going to start off with the very unsatisfied. I'm going to make that a dark red. And this one, we can keep that as orange, or we can change that to perhaps a lighter red. The benefit of a graph like this, it's very visually appealing. It helps the data, the choices, the response rates stand out because everyone knows that green is good. The red, signifies stop and danger. So this kind of gives us a really quick visual presentation of our data. We could, if we wanted to, add data labels. Formatting our data labels. We perhaps want to show, it doesn't have percentages there. Value is good, we don't need leader lines. And perhaps changing the location as well. So you have to do that manually for each of the sections. But this basically tells us that for question 2, for example, the satisfied choices are about maybe 66%, 67%. It gives us a really quick visual understanding of the percentages and how satisfied customers, clients, students, people are with the different questions that are being asked.